On a rainy Tuesday night in Chicago, a 2-month rookie officer made a split-second assumption that would cost the city $14 million, end his career before it started, and become required viewing in emergency rooms across the country. Officer Derek Ramos, 24 years old, fresh out of the academy, was running a routine traffic stop on South Michigan Avenue at 11:47 p.m. when he spotted a silver SUV blowing through a red light at dangerous speed. He activated his lights and pursued. What happened next was captured entirely on his body camera, and it'll leave you speechless. Before we go further, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, hit subscribe. These stories need to be told, and your support makes that possible. The SUV pulled over within 30 seconds. The driver's door flew open before Ramos had even stepped out of his cruiser. A tall black man in blue scrubs, face mask hanging around his neck, moved toward the back passenger door with urgent, deliberate speed. Ramos drew his weapon. "Sir, stop. Hands where I can see them. Stop moving now." The man didn't stop. "Sir, I have a child. He's not breathing. I need to move." Ramos saw what the man was carrying. A small boy, maybe 7 years old, limp in his arms, lips pale, head falling back. "Put the child down and get on the ground." The man turned, and in the wash of Ramos's flashlight, his face was a mask of controlled desperation. "Officer, I am a trauma surgeon. This child was in a car accident 4 blocks from here. I have been performing manual airway management for 6 minutes. If he doesn't get into that ER in the next 90 seconds, he dies. That hospital," he nodded toward Northwestern Memorial's emergency entrance, 40 feet away, "is right there." Ramos saw the hospital. He saw the entrance. He saw the child. He still blocked the path. "I need to see ID. You need to calm down, sir. I'm going to need you to... He is dying." The body cam captured what happened next frame by frame. 3 nurses who had spotted the commotion from behind the ER sliding doors burst outside. A charge nurse named Patricia Owens, a 16-year veteran, sprinted across the ambulance bay. "Let him through! That's Dr. James Whitfield. He's our chief trauma surgeon. Let him through." Ramos hesitated. 2 full seconds. BodyCam timestamp confirmed it. Then he stepped aside. Dr. James Whitfield carried 7-year-old Marcus Collins through those sliding doors at a full run. He survived. By 4 minutes. Dr. James Whitfield was 44 years old. He had been chief of trauma surgery at Northwestern Memorial for 6 years. Before that, 8 years as an attending, 2 years as a fellow, 4 years of residency, 4 years of medical school. 24 years of his life had been aimed at one singular purpose: keeping people alive in their worst moments. He had grown up on the south side of Chicago, the son of a postal worker and a school librarian. He had earned a full scholarship to Northwestern as an undergraduate, graduated top of his class at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, and returned to Chicago specifically to serve communities that needed trauma care most. On the night in question, Dr. Whitfield had been driving home after a 17-hour shift when he witnessed a T-bone collision at an intersection. A rideshare vehicle struck by a delivery truck running the light. Adult driver unconscious. Young passenger, Marcus, ejected partially from his seatbelt. Airway compromised, unresponsive. Dr. Whitfield stopped his car, rendered immediate aid, recognized the severity, and made the calculated decision that the fastest path to survival was his car, not waiting for an ambulance 4 to 6 minutes out. He called ahead to his own ER while driving. His team was waiting. He had the situation managed until Officer Ramos pulled him over. The body cam footage hit social media at 6:14 the following morning. A bystander near the ER entrance had captured the confrontation on a cell phone from a different angle, catching what Ramos's camera missed. The full 38-second standoff, the nurses screaming from behind the glass, and the moment Ramos's hand moved toward his holster. He never drew the weapon, but the movement was captured clearly. By noon, the video had been viewed 11 million times. By evening, #LetHimThrough was trending nationally. The comment sections told the story without editorializing. A surgeon in scrubs, carrying an unconscious boy, and this officer's first instinct was his weapon. This little boy almost died because someone decided a black man running toward a hospital needed to be stopped. He flagged down a trauma surgeon and treated him like a suspect at a hospital, holding a child. The Chicago Police Department released its initial statement at 3 p.m. Officer Ramos had been placed on administrative leave. The matter was under review. Appropriate action would be taken. It was not enough. Not even close. At the press conference 48 hours later, Dr. Whitfield stood at a podium wearing his white coat, his hospital ID badge visible. He had not slept. His eyes were steady anyway. "Marcus Collins is alive," he began. "He underwent emergency surgery for a subdural hematoma and bilateral rib fractures. He will make a full recovery. I want that stated first because that is what matters most." He paused. "I also want to state clearly what happened Tuesday night. I am a physician. I was wearing scrubs. I was 40 feet from my own emergency room. I was carrying an unconscious boy. I had announced who I was and what the situation required, and I was told to stop." He looked directly into the cameras. "The officer who stopped me was not processing facts. He was processing assumptions, and those assumptions had nothing to do with the scrubs, or the child, or the hospital behind me. I have been a doctor in this city for over 2 decades. I know exactly what shaped that officer's first instinct when he saw me running." He let that land. Marcus survived. But I have to ask, what happens to the next person that officer stops? What happens when the person he decides doesn't belong somewhere, doesn't have nurses screaming their credentials through a glass door? What happens when there's no body cam, no bystander video, no surviving child to make the headline undeniable? Do you think Officer Ramos deserved immediate termination or retraining? Tell me in the comments right now. The internal affairs investigation took 11 days. The findings were methodical and damning. Officer Ramos had received below-average scores in situational assessment during academy training. His field supervisor had flagged in written evaluations that he demonstrated a tendency to escalate before gathering information. That flag had not resulted in extended supervision. It had resulted in a hospital zone assignment, considered lower risk than street patrol. The investigation confirmed that Dr. Whitfield had verbally identified himself as a physician within the first 7 seconds of contact, that he had identified the boy's condition, that the hospital entrance was visible in Ramos's own body cam frame throughout the encounter, that the appropriate response, according to departmental protocol for medical emergency situations, was to immediately facilitate access to care and radio for backup. Ramos had done none of those things. His termination was announced on day 12. The statement from the superintendent was brief and unambiguous. The officer had failed to prioritize a child's life. He had allowed bias-driven assumptions to override available facts in a medical emergency. There was no training protocol that remediated that category of judgment failure. Officer Derek Ramos's law enforcement career lasted 57 days. Dr. Whitfield filed suit in federal court 8 weeks later. The claims included Fourth Amendment violations, racial discrimination under color of law, interference with medical practice, and deliberate indifference to serious medical need. The suit named Ramos individually and the city of Chicago for systemic failures in officer evaluation and deployment. The discovery phase was particularly damning. 3 prior written evaluations recommending extended supervision before solo deployment. A field training officer's note that Ramos showed a pattern of determining suspect status before establishing factual basis. And academy instructors documented concern about how he processed ambiguous situations involving black men in civilian clothing. Every warning overridden because the department needed bodies to fill shifts. The $14 million settlement was reached 14 months after the night of the traffic stop. Dr. Whitfield donated $4 million to establish the Whitfield Emergency Response Fellowship, funding residency training in underserved trauma centers across Chicago's south and west sides. He returned to work the morning after Marcus's discharge from the hospital. He has not missed a shift. Marcus Collins attended the press conference announcing the settlement. He sat in the front row with his mother. He was 8 years old by then, a gap-toothed smile, a fading scar near his temple, and a hand-drawn thank you card he had made for Dr. Whitfield in purple marker. Dr. Whitfield kept it. It is on his office wall, above his medical degree, above his board certifications, above every credential that should have been, and almost wasn't, enough. Officer Ramos relocated out of state. The footage of him blocking a trauma surgeon from entering his own ER while holding an unconscious boy has been viewed 23 million times. It is now used in 3 medical schools and 2 police academies as a case study in how assumption-driven decision-making costs lives. He will not work in law enforcement again. The slide-in doors of Northwestern Memorial's emergency entrance still open automatically when someone approaches at speed. They don't ask questions. They don't assess appearance. They don't decide who looks like they belong. They just open. Officer Ramos could have learned something from a set of hospital doors. Some of them run the trauma department you're standing outside of. Some of them are carrying a boy who has 4 minutes left. And the credential that matters most in that moment isn't the badge. It's the one that says, I know when to get out of the way. If these stories matter to you, if you believe a surgeon in scrubs carrying a dying child should never have to prove he belongs at his own hospital, hit subscribe. We're not letting these stories disappear. We're making sure the right people are held accountable every single time.